Hey, what's up? My name is Brian Sun, and I am a daydreamer. So there's many moments I'll be sitting at my desk at Open Door. It'll be 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a cloudy San Francisco day, and I'll be logged into Iterable, setting up an automation or an email campaign, and my mind starts daydreaming to a very specific moment in the future. That moment is when our lifecycle marketing team has fully automated the entire customer journey. Now, when I say fully automated the customer journey, what I picture is for every possible step and drop-off point, we'll have a series of automatic, proactive, and reactive messages that nudge the customer toward the next step in their journey. We'll communicate across multiple channels in a way that feels seamless to our customer, and there will be no leaks anywhere. So no matter what the scenario, we'll always be top of mind with our audience. At Open Door, we've made a lot of progress towards fully automating the customer journey, but have not made it to the very specific moment I described just yet. But just picturing that moment, damn, it feels good. I want you to daydream with me for a minute. What would life be like for you, your customers, and your company if you finished fully automating the customer journey all the way from first customer touch point to lifelong repeat sales? What does that look like? How legit would it be? Let me tell you, it would benefit everybody. For your customer, a fully automated customer journey would result in the jargony but awesome phrase of always receiving the right message at the right time for the right reasons. Put a different way, they would think you're part mind reader and part helpful assistant who always knows what they need to hear now and who gives smart recommendations of what to do next. And they would love you for it because every other company is blowing up their inboxes and bugging them like crazy. I think of it as the difference between receiving a message from a company and thinking to yourself, wow, this is perfect timing, this is so helpful, versus, leave me alone. You want to be the former, where people are excited to hear from you. And for your company, a fully automated customer journey would mean no person would ever fall through the cracks. This is really important because your company spends precious dollars and time and attention to get new people in the door. You gotta take care of them when they enter into your world. I'm talking specifically about people in your database who you haven't communicated with in months, or the moments in your customer experience where a person gets stuck and never hears from you again. That's bad. But when you fix it, it'll mean no more leaks, no more stuck points, no wasted opportunities on people already in your database. This will result in lower customer acquisition cost and higher lifetime value per customer. And I guarantee you, your company wants that. For you, the person who built the thing, you and your team will get credit for helping grow the business organically, implementing automation to scale elegantly, and my personal favorite, when your customer journey is fully automated, you could take a nap on a Tuesday afternoon and still be printing money. Or take now, for instance. I'm here speaking at this conference, and automated messages our team are set up are sending as we speak, like magic. That's the end state of a fully automated customer journey for your customers, your company, and you. If fully automated customer journey is over here, and where you're at now is over here, there's a whole gap in between, here and there, of stuff you need to do. To help you get there, today I'm going to walk you through a roadmap and process that I've made, embraced, and done that will help you get from where you are now to fully automated customer journey. Before we dig into the process, I want to share a little bit about me so you know where and how my ideas were formed. I started doing email marketing over 10 years ago by sending monthly email newsletters through MailChimp. I think that's pretty much where all of us in the industry got our start. And from there, I used a bunch of different systems. I was an early power user of Intercom's automation tools. I've used ActiveCampaign, Autopilot, and now Iterable, and I've messed around with a bunch of others. I've used those tools to do lots of things like set up onboarding flows, welcome journeys, repeat buying flows, and eventually automating the whole customer experience. But for me personally, the most formative time for everything automation related was my 3 years at Autopilot, a marketing automation software company. My time there shaped my perspective the most. At Autopilot, I saw how hundreds of companies approached automation, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. I've seen it all. I also did consulting where I built out automation machines for an online community, an e-commerce shop, and a two-sided marketplace. But my biggest challenge is actually what I'm working on right now. I'm currently at Opendoor, automating the customer journey for the most complex transaction the most consumers will go through in their life, the process of buying, selling, and trading in a home. Our life cycle is complicated because there's sellers, buyers, agents, and home builder segments. And then you layer on our website and app entry points and experiences, as well as new and ever-evolving offerings. And then having to create mutually exclusive experiences and overlapping experiences, taking into account all those factors, and then building for all those target segments. You add all that together, and you have yourself a big Opendoor puzzle I have a lot of fun solving every day. This is actually the first time I've spoken at a conference about lifecycle marketing because I've been heads down doing the work, and now I'm poking my head up to share from the experience and background that shapes what I'm sharing today. And based on my previous experiences, I've landed on a set of core mindsets that shape the way I approach the work of automating the customer journey. The mindsets are holistic, multi-channel, and rooted in respect. I want to share about each before sharing how to get from where you are now to fully automated customer journey. When I say holistic, I mean think holistically about the entire customer journey. I'll explain exactly what that means in a minute, but before I do, I want to highlight that we have a lot of names for the work that we do. They include marketing automation, drip campaigns, lifecycle marketing, automating the customer journey, CRM and retention, and insert whatever next jargon term here. And in my view, each conjures up a picture of different things. Marketing automation tends to focus on the automatic passing of leads to sales with the lead nurturing flow thrown in, and drip campaigns usually refer to content sent at a time cadence, like after a person subscribes to a blog. And when we use certain terms, we limit ourselves to the pictures they bring to mind. For our work, I think there's a best way to think about it. In my view, the most effective approach is thinking of our work as automating the entire customer journey or life cycle, because the whole customer experience matters. Not just the marketing and acquisition side of the business, not just the onboarding or nurturing flows, the whole thing matters. And when you think this way, your job description gets way more exciting. You won't just be a person hitting the send button on a few batch and blast campaigns. You become a strategist who can speak to your company's entire customer experience and a person who knows where to lead customers next. So, embrace a holistic mindset in this work. When I say multi-channel, I actually mean every channel. I'll be real with you. I hate being called an email marketer because too often our mindset defaults to email as the only mode of automated lifecycle communication. But our work and influence as lifecycle experts can be so much more than just that one channel. Plus, we know that customers engaging just through email is not even close to the reality of today's modern customer. Straight up, we don't need some stat to tell us that customers interact with our businesses through multiple channels like email, push notifications, SMS, on-website messages, in-app messages, phone conversations, live chat, direct mail, and the list goes on and on. I mean, think about yourself. In one day, with the same company, you could receive an email from them on your MacBook, go home and check out their website on your iPad, get a coupon from an on-website message but fall asleep before redeeming it, and then the next moment get an SMS on your iPhone about a flash sale and make a purchase. This is the new reality. If we only think in email, we miss out on a huge opportunity to connect with customers in different places where they're focusing their attention. And when I say rooted in respect, I'm thinking of two groups, your customers and your team. Respecting your customers is recognizing that your customers have their personal space. And just because they've given you their email on the internet, it doesn't mean that they want you blowing up their inbox and phone like crazy. They have boundaries, and you gotta respect their time, attention, inbox, and notifications by making every message you send timely, valuable, and relevant. And by respecting them, they'll grow in their respect for your company over time, resulting in better, like a better gut feeling every time they receive a message from you, and having that ultimately lead to more sales and repeat sales for your company. Now, onto the second audience, your team. Respecting your team is recognizing that intimate knowledge of the entire customer lifecycle is hiding in your teammates' minds. You may be the expert on the bigger picture of the customer lifecycle, but you need your team to fill in the details. So sit down with sales, sit down with customer success, sit down with support, sit down with product, and respect their perspective by bringing them into your work of automating the entire customer journey. This will result in wider company buy-in and a better experience for your customers overall. So those are the three mindsets: holistic, multi-channel, rooted in respect. Embrace these mindsets and let them guide you as you work toward automating the customer journey. Now, onto my process to get you from where you are now to fully automated customer journey. I can sum up the whole process in 2 sentences. 1, your customers are on a journey. 2, your job as a lifecycle marketer is to understand that journey, create a remarkable experience across multiple channels, and automate it. Here's my 7-step process to do that. Step 1, define the key events in your customer journey. To define the key events in your customer journey, first we have to get on the same page about what that means. Customer journey is one of those nebulous phrases that we throw around all the time in our industry, but we need to actually define. So when I say customer journey, I mean the experience from stranger to lead to customer to repeat customer to promoter. Unlike the traditional marketing funnel that ends when a person becomes a paying customer, the customer journey framework is holistic in its thinking and emphasizes both winning and keeping customers, along with every step that leads to a long-term relationship. To complete this step of defining the key events in your customer journey, I recommend a back-of-the-napkin approach, where you write stranger, lead customer, repeat customer, and promoter down on a piece of paper. This can be really that simple. Then ask yourself, for our customer experience, what are the key events that need to be completed for a stranger to become a lead? And then a lead to become a customer to become a repeat customer, and a repeat customer to become a promoter. Then write them down. This is the most basic example I could think of. Stranger to lead gives you their email. Lead to customer is buys your product or service. Customer to repeat is buys again, upgrades, or renews. And promoter is refers their friends. The more steps people need to complete in their experience with you, the more events you'll have in your customer journey. For example, in Opendoor's case, for one of our audiences, my team and I identified 45 events that need to be completed in the journey from stranger all the way to promoter. In other words, your company's customer journey will likely have more events. That's normal. Here's another example that has a few more events between each stage. Notice how the repeat customer to promoter section has writing a 5-star review as a key event, unlike the last example that just had refer a friend. There's lots, and then the other sections also have a couple more added. So the question to ask yourself is, what are the key events for your business a person needs to complete to move from stage to stage? That's foundational. I don't know what those are for your company, but if you ask, what event do people need to complete to move from blank to blank, then you'll figure it out. You and your team have all the context and knowledge about your customer to knock this out. Step 2, choose the relevant channels for each event. This is where, instead of defaulting to email, you consider which channels make the most sense to send your messages through. The channels to consider are email, push notifications, text messages, phone calls, in-person interactions, direct mail, gifts, chat, retargeting, and social. And I'm going to take a drink of water. You may want to add or remove channels from this list, depending on what makes the most sense for your business. So the way to choose relevant channels for each event is to put your events and channels on a spreadsheet together. Your spreadsheet will look like this. What you do is put every event you define in step 1 on the left side and put the communication channels up top. After you do that, either by yourself or with relevant stakeholders, you go line by line and ask, when a person completes X event, what are the best channels to follow up with the person to encourage them to complete the next event? So for example, you'd ask, after a person makes their first purchase, what are the best channels to follow up with them on to get them to their second purchase? Then you put an X on the channels you want to follow up on for each event. Use your best judgment to decide which channels to do. And honestly, the channels to use will be a no-brainer once you ask the question for each event and think about it for a minute with the right people in the room. This isn't rocket science, but it is something I know a lot of us haven't taken the time to sit down and do yet. And odds are in your company there are different teams who interact with customers through these different channels, but they're doing it in silos and not thinking holistically about all the messages customers are receiving. You can fix that problem and create the source of truth for your company by doing this exercise. One last thing for the second step, while you're thinking multi-channel, remember to stay rooted in respect. It'll help you stay ruthless about saying no to unnecessary channels. Step 3, create an automation blueprint showing the whole experience. An automation blueprint is a visual diagram of all your automations at a glance. I made up this term and I really like it. I'll show you a few examples, then talk through how to create one. One good thing to know is there's a spectrum of automation blueprints. You can go back of the napkin sketch, which is my personal favorite, all the way to a well-designed diagram using fancy diagramming software. Here's a back of the napkin automation blueprint I sketched out for a simple e-commerce use case. The beauty of back of the napkin is you can walk outside of this room, grab a napkin and a pen, and do this right now after the session, or even walk out right now and do it. It wouldn't be perfect, but it'd give you something concrete and real to build off of and to show to your team to get their feedback on immediately. So back to this specific example. In this diagram, each circle represents a series of messages. For example, nurture to first purchase may include a dozen emails, push notifications, and text messages. But another circle, like abandoned cart journey, may include one email. The point is to see all the automations for the entire customer experience in one visual. Here's a well-designed diagram from one of my friends, a marketer named Claire Swellentrop. She's one of the founders of a marketing workshops company named Forget the Funnel. And she gave me the thumbs up to share this diagram showing her company's entire automation blueprint. The first time I saw it, my jaw hit the floor. I think it's a badass work of beauty that where when it's complete, no person will fall through the cracks. Notice the line at the bottom. It shows the journey of someone who subscribes to their weekly workshops newsletter. They just stay on that forever if that's the only thing they ever do. And up top shows the journey of someone who subscribes to an e-course and the purchases they could make along the way. And the middle shows all of the automations that come into play if a person drops off at any step. I also love how the diagram even includes segments and visually shows how there's multiple messages for some automations. It's awesome. On to my last example. This is a glimpse of Opendoor's automation blueprint. Each circle on here represents an automated series of messages. I removed the names of each to keep our trade secrets a secret, but I can talk you through it at a high level. It shows 3 entry points, the routes both home buyers and sellers can take, covers every drop-off point, and includes post-purchase automations like asking for a customer review from people who gave us like a high NPS score, and ongoing nurture to stay in touch with the customer until they transact with us again. If you come and join our team, I'll walk you through it in detail. So again, there's a spectrum of automation blueprints. Back of the napkin, super detailed, or made with fancy software. What matters is just doing it. So to make your automation blueprint, you take the key events you define for each customer journey stage in step 1, and you're thinking from the multi-channel spreadsheet, and then you put it into visual form. So you're not starting your automation blueprint from scratch. I'll give you the 7 automations to include from the start. Follow up with new leads, nurture leads into customers, onboard new customers, turn first-time buyers into repeat buyers, woo repeat buyers into promoters, re-engage stale leads, and win back lost customers. I want you to raise your hand if you've already set up these automations for your company, all 7. Okay, cool. I haven't either. It's a process, and like I said, it's that moment in the future we're all working towards, especially when your life cycle is pretty complicated. So the cool thing is all 7 match up to the customer journey framework we covered in step 1. You'll probably end up with more than 7 because the events in your customer journey may not map one-to-one with these 7 automations, but use them as a jump start and customize from there. Step 4, stitch together your marketing tool stack. Here's a back of the napkin sketch I made to show you what I mean by stitch together your marketing tool stack. So quick definition, your marketing tool stack is all the marketing tools that you use, and stitching them together is about making sure all the data flows seamlessly between each tool. The reason why this is important is data about your customer lives in different places, and you want to get all of that data into your automation system. So you, 1, have a centralized customer profile for each person in your database. 2, you use the right data to send the automations in your blueprint. And 3, you never send oops messages, which we've all sent. It's those messages where after we send them, the first words out of our mouth are oops. All of us have done this, and we've been on the receiving end of it as well. For me personally, I've received emails from apps that try and get me to become a paying subscriber after I've already become a paying subscriber. I don't get mad because that's like the epitome of a first world problem, but I do think it's dumb. It's like, how does that data not get back to their automation system? Seriously. Anyway, back to helpful stuff. The types of data that live in your different systems includes demographic data, things like job title, location, company name, company size, and think of all the cool stuff you could do with this data. An example would be offering promotions to certain locations or following up with targeted messaging to certain company sizes. Engagement data is stuff like products purchased, cash money spent, URLs visited, or in-app behavior. With that, you could message people who visited certain pages, make smart product recommendations, or trigger messages in response to key behaviors. In your CRM, you may have things like lead status or assigned salesperson, and then from there, you could send timely messages based on where the relationship is, their relationship stands with your business. But the key is getting all of this into your automation platform by stitching your marketing systems together and paying attention to the data integrity and flow. Is the data correct? Is it flowing correctly? The way to do that is to work with Logan Herr at Iterable, or you just draw a picture showing where everything lives, and then map what data lives where, and then how it gets in your automation system, like the automation, like the big picture I drew earlier with all the tools. This could be a huge project, which I know may be unrealistic or not feasible for a lot of us with our ever-growing to-do list. But the quick start version is to only do the minimum amount required so you don't send oops messages. Step 5, prioritize the blueprint based on company priorities and goals. When you look at your blueprint, odds are you'll want to do all of it right now. I totally get it. I'm the same way. And honestly, I think the hardest part of our job is prioritization. There's always the urgent and important short-term goals competing with the not urgent but important long-term goals. The questions you have to ask to nail down what to build next is what can add the most value now and what will lead to the biggest impact longer term. Your deliverable there is a prioritized list of the order you'll build each individual automation. I recommend 3 different buckets to place your prioritized automations in: new, refresh, and experiments. So new is automations and messages that don't exist yet. There's nothing there. Refresh, automations and messages that do exist, but you want to make them better. And then experiments is like tests and stuff that you want to run to increase conversion. An example would be an A/B test of different designs for one of your key emails. Put all this in a doc or spreadsheet with the 3 buckets and refer to it as your master to-do list. Step 6 is build each automation one by one, then rinse and repeat. Quick side note, the first 5 steps we've covered are all strategic and foundational steps before building a single automation or message. The deep work of strategy is what separates lifecycle marketers, expert lifecycle marketers and lifecycle programs that will scale from amateurs and beginners who are following the next shiny lifecycle growth hack. We gotta do the deep work. So back to this step to building automations. When I say build one by one, you'll probably end up building a few at once. That's reality, I get it, it's just more to manage. My high-level steps for building automations are to create the structures of the series, like what message, 1, 2, 3, what are the triggers and behaviors, then coming up with content and design. I was going to walk through those steps in detail, but you probably already have your own process with that since you're in this session at the Iterable Activate conference. So instead, I want to share a few tips you may not do yet during your automation building process. The first is embracing the rule of thumb to make the best possible automation you can at this moment in time. The reason why is because sometimes with the pressure of our company cultures or wanting to move quickly to the next thing on our to-do list, we release subpar automations we know we could have made better. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll fix it later. But that later seems to never happen. To avoid this, make the best possible automation you can at this moment in time so you can move on with no regrets and leave the automation in a great place until you're ready to go back and A/B test it to higher performance. My second tip is to look at heat maps to influence the content and design of specific messages. I'll give you an open door example. We send out a variety of real estate reports to homeowners about their home value, their neighborhood, and their market. And in a recent redesign, we saw from heat maps that are really long reports, 90% of the clicks actually came from the top section. So in our redesign, we cut all the fluff to improve the reader experience without sacrificing results. So as you're building new automations for this 6th step, remember to make the best possible ones you can at this moment in time and to use heat maps to make your content and design decisions. Step 7, launch, learn, and test. Here are the 3 layers of metrics to pay attention to. Your first is overall program metrics. These analytics give insight into overall lifecycle health, as well as provides a benchmark for how individual emails and automations in your program compare to each other. I recommend Iterable's dashboard feature to view all of this data, including opens, unsubscribes, clicks, etc., for your whole program. Setting this up will definitely come in handy. At Open Door, I always have people come to me and ask, how does this email compare to everything else that we send? And these program level metrics will make answering easy. The second layer is at the automation level. These analytics give insight into if your individual automations are meeting their intended goals. An example would be in the first-time buyer to repeat buyer flow, where the only metric that matters is did the automation, whatever it's made up of, including push, SMS, email, get people to make the second purchase. The third layer is at the individual message level. These analytics give insight into if your individual emails are meeting their intended goals. It's what we typically track, including open rate, click rate, etc. But remember to track the thing that really matters, which is which individual messages in your automation led to the main goal happening. Like in the first time to repeat buyer example, which email led to the second purchase the most? These 3 layers together are gold. After seeing the numbers, you'll probably want to start A/B testing immediately, but my recommendation is to build your whole automation blueprint, then start A/B testing. For most companies, the biggest win is creating the stuff that doesn't exist yet, but if you must start A/Bing, then start with your highest value automations and emails and other messages. To recap, here are your 7 steps to fully automate your customer journey. 1, define the key events in your customer journey. 2, choose the relevant channels for each event. 3, create an automation blueprint showing the whole experience. 4, stitch together your marketing tool stack. 5, prioritize the blueprint based on company goals. 6, build each automation one by one, then rinse and repeat. Step 7, launch, learn, and test, which could be a whole talk on its own. And do all of them with a holistic, multi-channel, and rooted in respect mindset. Bring all of those towards your work. I know firsthand how difficult completing these steps can be in real life. I'm in the thick of it myself every day, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel of a fully automated customer journey. It'll take work and hustle and execution for you and I to get there, but I promise you, if you follow my 7-step process, you'll create a better experience for customers, make sure no person ever falls through the cracks for your business, you'll be the driver who made it happen, and you'll get from where you are now to fully automated customer journey. Thank you.